Another Meghan project. Big promises, glossy headlines, and then nothing. The Daily Mail just reported on one of Meghan's gimmick projects, and it fits a pattern we've seen again and again. From the TIG relaunch to blockbuster Netflix content to major philanthropic initiatives, the hype is huge, but the delivery, not so much. And that's where it gets interesting because on the surface, this looks a lot like imposter syndrome, the fear of being exposed as a fraud. But here's the twist: narcissists, like Megan, in my opinion, don't usually feel imposter syndrome the way you and I do. Instead, they manufacture the illusion of competence through overpromising. It's not about fear of not being good enough, it's about control. And the cycle goes like this: make a grand promise, deliver little or nothing, spin the narrative or shift the blame, and then announce the next big promise. So while people with imposter syndrome work harder to prove themselves, a narcissist doubles down on the fantasy to make sure no one notices the gap between what they say and what's real. And in Megan's case, the gap is getting harder to ignore. Let's get into it, but before we begin, here's the intro.
Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe.
The article I want to talk about today was just published, and it had to do with the 40 by 40 initiative that Meghan proposed on her 40th birthday, August 4th, 2021. This article is titled "The Birthday Gimmick Meghan Markle Project That Never Was." Royal expert reveals the Duchess's scrapped plans that would have featured Adele and Stella McCartney but was quietly shelved. As Meghan celebrates turning 44 today, royal observers may be reminded of the bold campaign she launched for her birthday in 2021, which was dropped almost as quickly as it began. Meghan celebrated her 40th birthday by announcing an initiative to help women back into work after the pandemic in a film featuring Melissa McCarthy and a comedy cameo by Prince Harry. In a project titled 40 by 40, she asked 40 of her friends to commit 40 minutes of their time to mentor and support women going back to work. Meghan was hoping to create a domino effect of counseling a wider than her circle. But soon after the Archwell campaign went live, there was radio silence from the Duchess. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams told the Daily Mail he believes the initiative was a gimmick designed to boost Meghan's appeal. He said that the idea seemed, on the face of it, an imaginative way to celebrate her 40th birthday. It also promoted the cause of gender equality, which she had publicly supported for years. What made this particularly significant was that she had several top celebrities on board. Let's pause here really quick. If we look at the timeline, her birthday, August 4, 2021, this was about 5 months after, 4.5 months, let's say, after the Oprah interview went live, and about 3 months after Prince Philip passed away. And I think already the facade was starting to fall, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So this is the image that was launched by the campaign. People were asked to share this all over Instagram, and there were a number of celebrities that did, including Kerry Washington. The text says, "For women who give everything, we give our time. Are you in?" And apologies for the low quality of the image. The article continues and says, Adele and Stella McCartney publicly backed it, as well as Princess Eugenie. Apart from Serena Williams, Meghan and Harry have struggled to get A-list support for their projects, being reportedly estranged from, for example, David and Victoria Beckham. Apart from Serena Williams, Meghan and Harry have struggled to get A-list support for their projects, being reportedly estranged from, for example, David and Victoria Beckham. Some of the big names who attended their wedding hardly knew them. Let's pause here. Yes, that is absolutely true. Many of the people that attended their wedding barely knew them. And I think it's striking that the example they're using here as estrangement from the couple is David and Victoria Beckham. The falling out with David and Victoria Beckham was covered really well in Tom Bower's book about the Beckhams. And my impression of it is that Meghan suffered a broken ego, and this led to the falling out. The article continues, however, this potentially worthy project appears to have been quietly shelved, lending credence to the claim that Meghan is incapable of organizing anything properly. There was never any clear idea of how it would be funded or exactly how it would be beneficial to spend just 40 minutes with someone. Also, underlining the Sussex's global reach, this was supposed to have a ripple effect around the world, boosted by social media. She called for a global wave of compassion and positive change. Let's pause here. So, this is what really got me interested in this story because you can see the grandiosity. And to be honest, this would be a great initiative at a really great time as women might be entering the workforce again after the stay at home orders and after the pandemic. In my work, we use the SMART principle to guide projects. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. A successful initiative needs to meet all of those criteria, and Megan's 40 by 40 just didn't. It was vague, no measurable results, no clear plan to achieve the promises, and no accountability over time. This acronym is actually very well known in the professional world. So I'm very surprised that Megan, who prides herself on being a successful business owner, didn't model this initiative as a SMART goal. The article continues, it was clearly just a gimmick designed to boost Megan's appeal, which she may have overestimated both then and now. And this was not the only time Megan appeared to overreach and underdeliver in her promises. Let's stop here. It's exactly this phrase that had me gravitate to this article, this overreach and underdeliver. And I gravitated towards it because yesterday I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome, and I wanted to make a video that connected imposter syndrome to Megan and how grandiose her plans are and how confident she seems in them and how they don't seem to really affect her if they're not successful. Meanwhile, I do the opposite. I underpromise and I overdeliver. This is just something that I do consistently in my life. So I really wanted to understand how this could be, and I wish that I could do a little bit if I could just have a sprinkle of what Megan has in order to not flare up my anxiety when I'm working on a project or when I'm working on these YouTube videos. The article continues, the royal expert said her new cookery series with Love Megan has failed to reach the Netflix top 300 for the first half of this year, which is ominous news for the Sussexes. Perhaps she would benefit from 40 minutes of mentorship. She recommended time spent in service to others, a topic about which she knows very little, though she did, as a senior working royal, have the chance to serve and didn't last long in it. Very well said. I also wanted to show you this article. So, what was the impact of Meghan's 40 by 40 initiative? The title of this article is Meghan Markle's birthday poem only publicly shared 200 times despite her appeal. An Instagram post promoting her new 40 by 40 initiative was reportedly only shared around 200 times publicly, despite Meghan saying it was her only birthday wish for people to promote it. This is very surprising to me because why would it fail with such a celebrity backing? And some of the names that are on board include Adele, like was mentioned in the previous article, Gayle King, Mindy Kaling, and Kerry Washington. And I think it has to do with a lack of genuine substance. There was no clear structure, no way to track the outcomes, and no meaningful follow-up. Essentially, the SMART goals were not used. And I think the the initiative relied heavily on celebrity influence. The famous names grabbed attention, but the campaign didn't connect with everyday people in a meaningful way. And isn't this reminiscent of Meghan's pattern? This inability to be able to connect with everyday people, with her audience, it really hinders her success. And then I wondered about this poem. What poem? And I Googled and Googled and Googled, and guess what the poem is? This is the poem. This is the poem. This is Meghan's birthday poem. So I was very surprised about that this Instagram post was Meghan's birthday poem. I want to get into now the overpromising and underdelivering. And in my opinion, Meghan is malignant narcissist because her behavior is very similar to my stepmom, who is a malignant narcissist as well. This overpromising that we see is a projection of grandiosity. There's this promise of groundbreaking initiatives, life-changing philanthropy, or a revolutionary brand. And this keeps people invested and admiring them. But it's image over substance. They prioritize how they appear over what they achieved. When follow through is missing, they pivot with excuses, victim narratives, or new promises. Overpromising keeps the audience, partners, and even a spouse in a cycle of waiting for the big payoff that never quite materializes. Just a quick tangent, this image versus substance. I made a short yesterday that is completely relevant here, and it's Meghan when she visited Rwanda in 2016. In the clip, you see her adjusting her scarf, fixing her hair, and holding her sunglasses because she is much more concerned about the image versus actually helping. I've noticed with Meghan that she has a uniform for the different type of work she does. There's a certain uniform when she's helping out in Africa, a certain uniform when she's helping out with the LA fires. And I use the term helping out very loosely. Now let's talk about imposter syndrome. This is chronic self doubt. Someone with imposter syndrome fears being exposed as a fraud despite being actually competent. They underpromise rather than overpromise. Instead of inflating expectations, people with imposter syndrome often downplay achievements to protect themselves from potential failure. It's fear versus the entitlement and grandiosity that narcissists promise. The imposter syndrome mindset is, I don't deserve this, whereas a malignant narcissist is, I deserve this no matter what. So, what's the connection between the two? Even though malignant narcissists and people with imposter syndrome come from opposite places, entitlement versus self doubt, their outcomes can look surprisingly similar to outsiders. And here are the main bridges between them. There's a gap between image and reality. In imposter syndrome, you actually have achievements but feel they're not good enough. You think, I'll be exposed as a fraud. For example, a woman gets promoted but tells herself, I only got this job because I was lucky, not because I'm competent. In malignant narcissism, there's a promise of grand achievements, but they're not delivered. They think, I'll just distract, blame, or spin it so no one notices. For example, Meghan launched a podcast with Spotify, but only produced one season and then blamed Spotify. To outsiders, both situations create a credibility gap. The person's words and realities don't line up. And that gap is where the imposter like vibes come in. The second bridge between imposter syndrome and malignant narcissism is the defensive mask. In imposter syndrome, people hide behind perfectionism or overworking, trying to earn their spot. The defense is, if I work harder, they won't find out I'm a fraud. Versus in malignant narcissism, they hide behind grandiosity and overpromising. The defense is, if I keep dazzling them with what's next, they won't notice I didn't deliver on the last thing. Both are strategies to keep people from seeing the truth underneath. In one case, a lack of confidence, in the other, a lack of substance. In both of them, there's this endless cycle of proving. In imposter syndrome, an accomplishment leads to fear of being found out, which pushes over performance, which causes a temporary relief, and the cycle starts again. In malignant narcissism, there's a big promise, an underdelivery, the story is spun and blame is shifted. Then they announce a new big promise and the cycle restarts. In both cycles, there's no real satisfaction or closure. The person with imposter syndrome or the narcissist audience is always waiting for the real thing to happen. And finally, there's a hidden fragility. Some psychologists suggest that narcissists secretly do feel imposter syndrome, but instead of admitting it, they cover it with grandiosity. At the core, imposter syndrome admits fragility, whereas malignant narcissism denies fragility. So in Meghan's case, it may be that this overpromising is a way of fending off an internal imposter fear that she could never admit publicly. To close this out, I want to summarize that imposter syndrome comes from a fear of not being good enough, while This overpromise and underdeliver that we see with narcissists comes from entitlement and manipulation, but both end up creating this same credibility gap between what's promised and what's real. The difference is an imposter doubts themselves, while a narcissist doubles down on the fantasy to avoid ever looking small. I want to expand on this with a discussion question that will be posted on my Patreon. You can find the link to the Patreon in the description of this video because I 100% struggle with imposter syndrome. I seek external validation, and it's not a good feeling. And I want to hear from you also. Do you struggle from imposter syndrome? Do you see Megan's overpromising and underdelivering? I mean, that's kind of obvious, I know. Let me know in the comments. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is on the screen should you need to contact them, and you'll find the link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps, and it means a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.